Indirect characterization is the process by which the writer shows the character's personality through speech, actions, and appearance. When you watch a movie or television show, you can usually gather what type of person the main character is based on the character's actions and reactions in different situations. There isn't a label on the screen that necessarily says angelic, gullible teen, or selfish, arrogant villain. Instead, you have to watch and listen to that person to notice how the character's personality is revealed through the story. By doing so, you are seeing how indirect characterization is being used on the screen. This also occurs in many novels and short stories. Instead of watching the character, you imagine the character in your head as you read descriptions of the actions and dialogue. Indirect characterization should not be confused with direct characterization, which is when the reader or audience is told what the character's personality is. The well-known phrase, show, don't tell, can apply to indirect versus direct characterization. Indirect characterization shows who a character is based on what he or she does and says, while direct characterization tells the reader or audience exactly what type of person that character is. Read the following excerpt from Rip Van Winkle by Washington Irving. He was a simple, good-natured man. He was, moreover, a kind neighbor and an obedient, henpecked husband. This description directly tells the reader about this man's personality using words like simple, good-natured, kind, and obedient. There is nothing left for you to infer or conclude on your own. Therefore, this excerpt is an example of direct characterization. If Irving were to use indirect characterization in this description, perhaps he would have described a scene in which the man was calmly helping some rambunctious children cross the street, or happily strolling through town, waving at people of all ages. The reader would then have to conclude that he was a kind, good-natured man, without the writer ever having told him or her so. To remember the 5 methods of indirect characterization, think of the word steal. It stands for the 5 methods. 1. Speech. What does the character say, and how does he or she speak? 2. Thoughts. What is shown about the character through his or her private thoughts and feelings? 3. Effect. What effect does the character have on other people? How do they feel or react to him or her? 4. Actions. What does the character do? How does the character act in different situations? 5. Looks. What does the character's appearance say about his or her personality? If a mother calmly tells her son it's time for bed and he responds by saying, "No, I don't have to do what you say, I'm staying up all night," then we can infer that this young boy is angry, obstinate, and may have authority issues. The author is not telling us directly what type of personality the boy has. Instead, we must decide this based on the author's use of speech. In the short story, The Scarlet Ibis by James Hurst, there are many examples of indirect characterization. In the following excerpt, speech and actions are being used to show 2 characters' personalities. I jumped up, knocking over my chair, and had reached the door when Mama called, "Pick up that chair, sit down again, and say excuse me." This tells us a bit about both Mama and the narrator. In this scene, the narrator is quick to avoid a confrontation with his mother and is perhaps a bit clumsy, but he does have enough respect for her to listen to her as she firmly tells him what to do, asserting her authority over him by being direct. In Willa Cather's novel, My Antonia, the method of using looks plays a key part when it comes to Cather's use of indirect characterization. Antonia's appearance is described in detail. She is said to have eyes that are big and warm and full of light, like the sun shining on brown pools in the wood, and her hair is curly and wild-looking. When she grows up and starts working in the fields, she's described as muscular and tan. Therefore, her image connects to her situation in life and shows how her appearance reflects her actions. She goes from being a beautiful young girl living on the Great Plains to a strong woman who has been toughened up by life. William Golding uses indirect characterization to reveal Jack's personality in his novel Lord of the Flies. The boys hold an election, and at first no one votes for Jack. This is surprising, since the choir is comprised of his followers. But then finally, things change. With dreary obedience the choir raise their hands. They know the way Jack leads, so they don't want him to lead them anymore. But they are too intimidated by him to vote for Ralph, Jack's opponent. By seeing the way they act and react in this situation, we are better able to understand Jack's personality without Golding directly telling us. Author Ernest Hemingway once said, "Show the readers everything, tell them nothing." This quote can easily be applied to indirect characterization. By showing readers or an audience what type of personality a character has through speech, thoughts, effect on others, actions, and looks, steal, a vivid picture of that person is painted without the author directly telling you what type of person the character is. We are able to decide for ourselves as we watch and listen, whether in our minds or on the big screen. Indirect characterization is the process by which the writer shows the character's personality through speech, actions, and appearance. This writing style can keep us captivated by a character's every move, leaving us eager to see what he or she will say or do next.